Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today, this glorious M340i goes back. I wanted to do a final thoughts video, if you like, or conclusion on what I actually think about this car. I've had it for the past 10 days and I've done just over 500 mixed and varied miles in it. So I feel like I know the car reasonably well and I'm definitely going to miss it. Before we start the actual video, I just want to urge you to head over to my second and brand new YouTube channel called Achilles Car Chatter, where I basically have a new guest on each episode and we talk mostly about cars. I'll put a link to that up here and also in the description below. Also want to say a massive shout out and thanks to the Berry BMW group and Tony Lewis in particular for organising this M340i. It's one of the first ones in the country and I'm very fortunate to have had this for the past 10 days and driven it around. And as with always, in most of my videos, the final drive is always on a very dreary, wet, damp day, but that's where this car really excels. Hopefully you've watched my first video on this particular car. Again, I'll link it above and there'll be a link to it below in the description, where I go over the outside the car, the cabin, etc., and then take it for my first drive and initial impressions. So check that out if you haven't watched it already, and then come back and watch this video, because this is like the end of term, if you like, and yeah, it's my afterthoughts or my thoughts at the end of, not ownership, because I definitely don't own this car, but at the end of loanership, let's call it. What I want to do is really quite simply summarize the good points and the bad points, and trust me, there's a lot more good points with this M340 than there are of bad points. But like with all cars and like with all of my reviews, I always try and pick out some bad points or any bad points I can, because let's face it, no car is perfect. Even the Cayman GT4 that I love, the 981, that has a number of bad points. So unfortunately there's no such thing as a perfect car, and if there was, I think the car world would become a bit boring, because it would mean that we stop searching for that perfect car. But this is very, very close to that. First thing I want to start with, and I'm sure I can already hear a lot of people going, oh really? Why are you starting with that in such a sort of performance-based 3 Series? Well, the first thing I want to say is how efficient this car is and how efficient it can be. I've had it for 10 days, just over 500 mixed miles. That's included 2 trips to London, sitting in London traffic on the A40 and M40 and plenty of long runs and stuff. And I've averaged 31.8 miles to the gallon. Now, normally, let's put into perspective, say my M2 competition, I think that's averaging about 21. So this is so much more efficient. And on one of my long runs, I actually averaged 41.6 miles to the gallon. And to be fair, yes, that was mostly 70-ish miles an hour on the motorway, give or take, and a bit of A roads, but still over 40 miles to the gallon in a car that's got this sort of performance. When I say this sort of performance, 0 to 60 quoted 4.4 seconds. To me, it feels quicker than that. It feels like a 4 dead car, and top speed limited to 155 miles an hour. I reckon with the 370, 380 brake horsepower this car's got, I reckon it could probably quite comfortably do 170, 175 miles an hour without breaking too much of a sweat. Next point, as we're going through some roundabouts, has to be its handling, its ability. Now, I don't want to give you my conclusion too early, but I am going to say that this car does remind me a little bit of a scaled down M5, if you like, and it's not much smaller than an M5 in here now. The new 3 Series is a big car, but its ability is very much like a scaled down M5. Not an M5 competition, it's not that sharp. Yes, it doesn't have the power, it doesn't quite have the ability or quite have the luxury of an M5, but you must remember this is nearly half the price, and its ability, its performance, its handling is just amazing. And it all starts from the moment you turn in. The initial turn in's really good, the mid corner balance is really good, and it sits lovely and flat. It stays really nice and level, and then corner exit is where it really excels. Obviously being xDrive, it just gets its power down and absolutely goes. We'll demonstrate that now on this roundabout. We'll put it into sport, put the traction into half. Oh, you can hear the pops and cracks. Put it into manual. Now as we come around here, firstly, this xDrive setup is very much like the M5 setup as well, so don't mistaken it for a normal xDrive setup, because it's definitely rear bias. When you accelerate, it starts to go a little bit sideways, and then you can either come off the accelerator like you would in a rear wheel drive car. You can bleed off it a little bit to pick up that grip, or you can steer into the skid exactly like you can in a rear wheel drive car. But with this xDrive setup, it's very clever, just like it is in the M5. When you give it a bit of opposite lock, it sort of catches the skid a bit more, and then it just basically, the computer is told to just fire you down the road. So its ability is amazing, and don't be mistaken for thinking, oh, this is xDrive, it's going to be boring to drive, because I've had a few people commenting actually saying, oh, I've been looking at one, but the xDrive platform or setup's a bit boring, you know, I'm a rear wheel drive man. I'm a rear wheel drive man. I drive an M2 competition, you know, M140s with diffs. I love rear wheel drive cars. The M5, the F90, I love it because it just does not feel like a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive platform at all, especially when you turn everything off. And the same goes with this. It's not quite as crazy as an M5 and M5 competition, but you can feel the rear wheels doing the work, and it just feels like a miracle rear wheel driven car, because just when you think you're going to get like a big angle going, it then just fires you down the road, and it's really, really impressive. I can't stress enough of how impressive this car is and this setup is. And I'm definitely not sitting here wanting for more, because let's remember, this isn't a full-on M car. This is a car that most people will want to own, you know, as a family car. Say it does everything without any fuss, with great ease, great economy. You've got that lovely purr of a straight 6, but yet at 8 tenths, yes, you will start feeling its weight, and you will feel its sort of shortfalls in places. But up to that point, it's just fantastic. It really, really is. Its cabin comfort is just amazing. These seats are just beautiful. Every generation of BMW sports seats just get better and better, and these are no exception. They're comfortable, they fit me perfectly. Look where that headrest is, it's bang on. They're supportive. The heating in them is really just spot on. The lumbar, everything about them is really, really good, and that's coming from someone who's 6'4", and I know these seats will basically cater for everyone, every shape and size. They're just really, really good. The cabin in here is lovely. A few people still go, oh yeah, but the Mercedes is, you know, more bling, and in fact, you know, maybe even the Audi A4 is a bit more bling. But in terms of actual build quality, fit and finish, and tech, this wins hands down. And that's not me being a BMW fanboy. It is unbelievable in here. The operating system 7 just completely destroys the competition. It honestly does. There's nothing else on the market from any manufacturer that build you know, an infotainment system that's as good as the iDrive system. Everything about this is brilliant. It's touchscreen, it's gesture control, which is a load of, as far as I'm concerned, but the voice control is amazing, as I've just talked about a lot in my recent new 1 Series videos. You know, you hopefully appreciate me for my my honesty in my videos, and yes, maybe I am a little bit BMW biased, but that's who I am. These are the products that I love, but I'm always open to trying other manufacturers. Anyway, let's just, oh, it's just so nice. You get that lovely neutral feeling, but when you're on the power, it still sends that power to the rear wheels when you've got everything off. I think I'm going to leave it in comfort now and actually put it over into drive, because oh, it's so good. These adaptive dampers, just such a nice ride. Remember, we're on shitty run flats, and this ride is It's pretty good. In terms of value, I think these are amazing value, and I know £50,000 is a lot of money. I don't mean to sound like a pretentious bellend by saying it's very, very good value at £50,000, because that's a lot of money. But let's face it, something like 90% of sales, maybe even more, are done on finance and PCP these days. And I actually got Tony Lewis to put a quote together for this car, but this was in September, so things have changed. They might have got better, they might have got worse. I'll put an amended quote below, but he said for this car, which is a £53,000 car, so it's got quite a few options thrown at it, I think it was £2,500 in as a deposit, and that worked out £550 a month. Now, to me, for just, well, let's call it a £500 a month car, base spec, I think that's amazing. That's amazing value for the performance and everything you get in this car. But forget about that. The one that I would have is the Touring, and the Touring's, I think it's about £1,500 extra to have the Touring or the estate version of this car. I think that's going to be pick of the bunch. For me, it would be anyway, but we'll talk a bit more about that in the conclusion. Let me know what you think is the best value all-round package car on sale today, £50,000, but new, brand new car. I don't want you saying, you know, a second-hand RS6. I mean new, RRP as well. I want your opinion on a package. Again, don't give me a two-seater sports car. I want something that's you know, that's very practical, very fast, very comfortable, great tech. Let me know what you think, because obviously there are other cars out there, but I honestly and genuinely think this in an estate is the one, is the package. What I'll end with, and things that I like about this car, is I love the way it looks. I know BMW are getting a lot of grief, especially with their front end design language and their grills and stuff, and they are ridiculous, especially the ones on the 7 Series, for instance. X5 and X7 are slowly growing on me. They still look pretty big, but I'm a bit embarrassed to say they are slowly growing on me. But I think this one just looks brilliant. Yes, it has got hints of Alfa Giulia in it, and it has got maybe hints of Mercedes C-Class, has got hints of lots of other cars in it, but none of those cars are bad. I mean, hints of Alfa Giulia, is that a bad thing? So you're getting hints of what an Alfa Giulia looks like, but you're getting BMW tech and running. I mean, really? Sounds like the perfect marriage. So I think it looks great, and it's certain times I've walked back to this car, especially when I'm walking towards the sort of side profile, and it just looks so good. I can't get done by a van, can I? That was just in comfort, just so you know as well. But I think it looks great. I think it looks really long and sort of just, it looks sporty. I love the angles, I love the lines. I think they've really nailed it with the design in this one, and I think even the sort of lower end models, like the 320D, when I see an M Sport version of that, or you should check out Lenny's 330i M Sport. He's put some amazing things on that car, including some awesome looking Vossen wheels and stuff, and the car just absorbs all of that very well. In the past, maybe previous 3 Series, you put sort of big wheels on it and stuff, and it just looks a bit sort of rude boy, but this particular shape just absorbs like aftermarket bits really well, like the sills and the splitters and stuff. It just looks really good. It's set up to sort of take all that kit on, so I think its looks are a real strong point. I'm not a fan of black wheels myself, but they do look quite good on this mineral white car. But yeah, it's a really nice looking car, and that extends to when you get inside in the cabin. You know, everything, as I talked about, is just ergonomically brilliant in here. Let's quickly go through the negatives. There's not many, there really isn't, and I have to be honest about the things that I've found that I don't like about this car, but they're not major negatives. They're just my normal things that I pick out on most cars. In fact, First one being is the overly thick steering wheel. I mean, it's just, the rim of it is just too thick. What is wrong with the only people that know how to make steering wheels or trim steering wheels at the moment is Porsche, and they just, you know, their rim's probably 30% thinner, and it just makes all the difference on feel. There's no need for it to be this thick at all. So I wish they would get rid of that, which would then alleviate a little bit of steering feel back into the car. I just don't get it. And people that say they like thick steering wheels, I don't know why. Why do you like holding thick steering wheels? There's no feel there. It's like wearing a really thick condom. It's just it's horrible. Anyway, I don't understand why I seem to be so outspoken about this, but yet no one else really talks about it. People talk about liking thick steering wheels. They are horrible, horrible things. They're things of Satan. Other negatives are the wooden run flat tyres. These are Bridgestone run flats. To be fair, the actual compound and the rubber, I've had a good look at them. They're not horrendous, like they're a massive step up on, you know, run flats of old, but still there's no getting away from the fact these are run flat tyres. They've got thick sidewalls, and they don't help the suspension in this car. The ride in it's really good, but I can imagine with a good set of, say, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's non-run flats, the ride would be that much better, the handling would be a bit sweeter, everything about the car would be that much better, the unsprung weight, etc. So it is a shame that this has got run flat tyres, but I understand why, you know, most manufacturers are doing it these days, for safety, for cost as well, because it means no spare tyre, for space as well, because no spare tyre, then the boot doesn't need the, you know, the tyre bay in the bottom of it, etc. So there are a number of reasons behind it, but they're not always good reasons. And if I had one of these, the first thing I'd do is, well, I'd probably get through these tyres in winter, or at least try and use them, and then whack some Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's on here, because yeah, that would vastly improve everything about this car. The other negative is, I guess, the cabin in here. It's a little bit dark and German, and I know that's a really obvious thing to say because it's black leather and we're in a German car, but it's just a little bit. At night it's nice, you've got all the lovely ambient lighting, but during the day it's just a little bit, yeah, a little bit boring in here, I guess. So I wish that the cabin had a little bit more flair about it, but I'm not complaining because it's a lovely place to sit, and if it was mine, I would have a pan roof, and I would probably have maybe a bit of a lighter leather or different trim in here. This has got lots of lovely black piano trim, but unfortunately there's already a small scratch down here that will polish out. But yeah, piano black trim, is it worth having? I don't know. It looks great, but wow, it's high maintenance to keep clean and keep, you know, unscratched or unblemished. The last slight negative of the car, again, is cabin based, and it's just the iDrive controller. I'm not convinced by the new controller and sort of surround. I wish that we could keep the old one. I think the one in my M2 competition from the iDrive 6 is just a nicer setup. I think it looks a bit cheap, and I just don't like the way the buttons are all quite flush. I prefer them to be out so I can just feel them. I would get used to this, but it's probably my last minor complaint about this otherwise absolutely brilliant M340i. Let's do my final thoughts and conclusion about this car. I have to say, I absolutely love it, as you can probably tell. And as I talked about a bit earlier on, I think its biggest compliment I can say is it's like a shrunken down, or a scaled down M5, F90 M5 we're talking. It's got pretty much all of the qualities of the M5, but in a smaller package, and I absolutely love it. It's just so capable. It really is just, it's brilliant. It really is. It really is a brilliant car. And it's so good that I spent a few days doing quite mundane stuff in this car, in drive and in comfort and stuff. And while I was doing that, it was doing it so well that I actually started to get a little bit bored of it. And I was like, oh, maybe it's not that, you know, maybe it's not that special. And then you knock it into sports and into manual, and you find a good road, and you realise that it is that special. And the fact that it can do that Jekyll and Hyde thing so well, it can be such a, you know, relatively boring car, if you like, but yet it can also be a really exciting car. At the flip of a coin or the flip of a switch, it's that ability, it's that all-round ability that just makes it so special. You put some winter tyres on this, and it's the winter weapon. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I would love to take this to somewhere like Lapland on a good set of winters, everything turned off. Oh, the skids you could do in this car in the snow would just be unbelievable. Anyway, I'm going off subject. So yeah, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think there's not a more compelling package that BMW sell at the moment. Yes, my M2 competition, especially in manual form, is more analog, it's more raw, more of a driver's car, but it's a completely different thing. It's same sort of money, but you know, this 4 big seats, luxury, big, but it's a, you know, this is a package. Talking about packages, if it was my choice and my money, I would probably have an individual colour like Nardo Grey, or they do a, is it lizard green or something? Touring with a pan roof, black leather, done. That'd be my spec. I mean, that would just be such a cool car. I couldn't think of a better sort of all-round package, and that would still sit at just over £50,000, which is really, really impressive. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks a lot for watching. Massive thanks again to Tony Lewis and Berry BMW for lending me this beautiful car. Big thumbs up. Remember to drop Tony Lewis a line if you want a quote on a BMW. He serves the whole of the UK as well, so don't think that because you live in the Midlands or up in Scotland you won't be able to use him. Honestly, drop the guy a line and see what he comes back with. Little shout out to my clothing brand Control and Shift. Head over to our website and help support me and my channel if you can, even if it is buying a sticker or a t-shirt. Every little helps, so really appreciate that. And don't forget about my second YouTube channel. I know there's a lot of plugs and things to remember, but anyway, thanks a lot for watching guys, and I will see you at the next one. Cheers.